Champions Cup Saturday games, of which there were many. I've caught myself up as best I could. I've seen the highlights of that game. I watched the first half of this game on a delayed replay, and then the second half as highlights once I kind of realized that it was going to go one particular way. I've seen this game in full, highlights, and I watched these two games simultaneously live here at 6:30 in the morning here on Sunday. So, not quite the same as dedicated watching it all on its own, but again, needs must. So, yeah, I'll go through the games, some of the key points, and yeah, we'll see what you guys think as well. The first one, Connacht over there in France, 32-17 from what I've seen, does not give Connacht, at least on the scoreboard, kind of credit for the effort that they put in this game, because I think the lead changed in this game 5 times. And you wouldn't know it when you look at the score 32-17. It did look a bit wet from the footage that I've seen. But yeah, it opened with Farrell's try for Connacht, made it 7-0. But Toulouse evened it up with the try to Beasy. 7-all. Toulouse went in front with the penalty, 10-7. Then Blade got his try to put Connacht back in front. It was a nice pass from Faenga, 14-7. Then Faenga was yellow carded for a tackle on Ntamak. He went above the horizontal, and the ref said he landed on his back. So 10 minutes it was for Faenga. Huge went over in the corner. The TMO checked it, but it was all good. They missed the conversion to make it 15 points to 14. That's how it went at halftime. And Toulouse just scoring 5 points during the yellow card period. So in the scheme of things, not too bad for Con. And at halftime, it is totally game on. However, second half, well, Connacht get the first score. Fitzgerald gets the drop goal to put Connacht back in front, 17 points to 15. That's on about 49 minutes, but that's where Connacht's scorings end, and they did miss a penalty, but yeah, Toulouse went back in front with the penalty, and then they got a try through Kaino, couple pick and goes under pressure, and they scored the try 25-17, and then they went over for the final one to Aki. It was tackle bust with scrum advantage, and that's the bonus point try right at the death. So that really blew the scoreline out. So that's kind of disheartening for Connacht, and the fact that they conceded the bonus point try right at the end. Like I said, I don't think it does them credit for how well, seemingly from what I've seen, they played during that game. But still, Toulouse deserved winners by what I've seen. They had 61% possession, 63% territory, 100% was their line-out. Connacht's was at 69%. Remember, Connacht missing a lot of players through injury. Connacht's defence, though, 87% tackling, which is phenomenal, and made 161 tackles. Toulouse only had to make 95, and they tackled at 83%. Connacht conceded too many penalties, 13 to Toulouse's 5. Again, probably to do with a lot of Toulouse having so much ball. Individuals, Ramos had 99 run meters and 4 defenders beaten, which against this Connacht side, with their defensive numbers, not easy. And Delane and Faenga both had 18 out of 19 tackles, which in itself is a top shift, but not good enough. Connacht go back home with no points from that one, which is disappointing. Toulouse pick up the full bag, so they are first in Pool 5 on 9 points, and Connacht are second on 4 points. But remember, Gloucester and Montpellier still have to play, so we'll see what happens with that game. Toulouse got Montpellier next, so all French clash, and then Connacht will go away to Gloucester. So hopefully, because that's not till December, hopefully they'll have a few guys back by that point. Next game was Benetton against Northampton. That would have been a good one to watch by the looks of things. 35 points to 32. Yeah, Northampton pretty lucky to get it done at the death. It's kind of a game of two halves in the way that it switched from from Benetton being kind of quite comfortably in front through to Northampton going back in front, Benetton evening it up, and then Benetton just conceding that final penalty at the death. In terms of the way the scoring went, the lead changed 4 times. Northampton penalty, Benetton try, he beat about 3 defenders, did 7-3. Northampton got a try through Collins, and that was quick tap from a scrum, free kick, and then Bigger with a nice little behind the back pass. It was pretty silky skills, 8 points to 7. And then Benetton got a penalty, 10 points to 8. They got a try, and then they got another try. So it was 25 points to 8. During the yellow card, Benetton scored 10 points, which is kind of what you want from that yellow card period. But then just before halftime, Reinach got his try from a quick tap when they had a penalty, and it was 25-15 at half time. Benetton did get yellow carded just with that Reinach move as well, but Benetton didn't concede any points while they had the man in the bin, which is a good effort. But second half kind of goes Northampton's way. They got a penalty, 25-18. Then a try through Sladeholm on about 57 minutes. There was a line break on the right wing and he went over, so to make it 25 apiece. And then another try, there was a 2-on-1. Collins was the man over, and it made it 32 points to 25. Looking fairly comfortable for Northampton in terms of the play, but not so much on the scoreboard. And sure enough, Fiver gets a try from a maul for Benetton. The backs even joined in for that one, 32 apiece. But then, right on full time, Benetton get penalised. Guy going in for a tackle, deliberate knock on, and the TMO had to check that one. But yeah, and Bigot slots the points, 35 points to 32. Not the best crowd, seemingly from what I've seen of the game. But man, those that did attend were sure put into a good entertaining game. Yeah, 4-try effort for Benetton, so they do get two bonus points, the losing one and the 4-try one. 4-try win for Northampton, so they certainly can't complain. But it took right until the death for them to get it done. Penalties conceded was 10-8, so relatively not that high, but on the high-ish side. Northampton with more possession and more territory, kind of 50-odd%. But run meters, 496 Northampton, 267 to Benetton. So, yeah, overall they bossed it. Both sides tackling in the 80s, with Benetton having to make 155 tackles, Northampton just 108. Collins, man, that guy had a great effort. 88 run meters, 5 clean breaks. 5 clean breaks is phenomenal. Zani had 14 out of 14 tackles for Benetton, but it is ultimately a losing effort for them. That puts them third in pool number 1 on 2 points. 2 points picked up in this game. And Northampton are second, just behind Leinster, also on 9 points. So it's just the points difference that is the difference maker for them. The next one, Saracens against Ospreys, it's a pretty lopsided score, 44 points to 3. Again, I watched the first half and kind of saw which way the wind was blowing, and decided to call it just the highlights for the second. A whole bunch of tries for Saracens, just the one for Ospreys. First 10 minutes did seem to be a wee bit scrappy, a fair few knock-ons, some poor kicks, but then Daly got a pretty good penalty from long distance to make it 3-zip. Another one from Saracens made it 6-0. And then Singleton finally on 21 minutes from a maul. He opened the try scoring. Ezekiel had a really good take at the lineup to get that one going. Can't underestimate the importance of that kind of thing. 11 points to 10 was the score. Then Ospreys got their penalty on 28 minutes to make it 11-3. Still respectable scoreline, still game on, but is it Sagan or Shagan? I forget the pronunciation for that guy's name. He had a couple of tries. He got his first one down the right wing. It was an interesting one because the pass was kind of loose, and then was it Whiteley just kicked it without, it was just bobbling loose on the ground. He was competing for it, like trying to be the first man to get to it. He just kicked it, and it managed to kick pass. He didn't drop it on his foot. It was just on the ground. Kick pass from nothing, like a soccer-style kick to Daly. Daly passes to, I'm going to say Shagan, and then he gets the try. Down the right wing, puts on a bit of gas. 16-3, and then Lewington down the left wing. And they actually had a man down at that point at Saracens. They had someone injured. I think it was Lamasatele was injured. But yeah, the Ospreys winger kind of bit in when they had the man over, so that created the overlap, and it was 2-on-1. Sure enough, it's a try, 23 points to 3. That's how it was at half-time. Excuse the sniffing. Second half, Daly offload to Shagan. He puts the gas on, 30 points to 3. It's one of those chicken wing offloads from Daly, who was having a top effort. Saracens got a penalty try from a scrum on 62 minutes. It seems they'd been warned. Again, I didn't watch the second half in full, so it seemed to be kind of one-sided, 37-3. And then Barrington on 66 minutes, 4 metres out, just kind of powers over after some phases, and it makes it 44-3, which is the full-time score. So, big bonus point win for Saracens. Ospreys, it was always going to be a tough trip to face Saracens, and sure enough, it proved. Game stats, Saracens 60 or almost 60% possession, more than 60% territory. Run meters 412 to 223, so not surprising. Tackling, Ospreys had to make 141 tackles. They still tackled 83% for the Champions Cup. That's slightly low, but I guess in most competitions it's still pretty good. But Saracens 89%. 98 tackles. Penalties conceded was 11 by Ospreys, just 3 by Saracens. Daly and Shagan both had 5 defenders beaten, which is top effort from them. Cracknell for Ospreys, 19 out of 19 tackles. So where other guys were missing a few, he was not. But still, that leaves Ospreys in a pretty bad position with 2 losses, no points. They're 4th in the pool, and their next game is, I believe, an away trip to play Racing 92, so it doesn't get any easier for them. Saracens have got Munster at home. Saracens are still 3rd in the pool because these two guys had a draw, so picked up a couple of points each. So, yeah, interesting stuff. In that pool number 4. The next one, Exeter Glasgow. Again, I did watch this one. That was a pretty interesting game. Kind of a game of two halves. Not such a good half in the second half for Glasgow, but a very good second half for Exeter. Glasgow were the ones that came out of the blocks pretty quickly, I would have said. They won a penalty early, went for touch instead of 3, but Exeter managed to turn them over. So no score early. Interestingly, Hogg's first touch, he decided to run it instead of kick it, and he ended up giving away a forward pass. So not the best effort from him. The score was opened, though, by Glasgow with a try from Grigg. The TMO to check the passing was all good, but sure enough it was. Seymour had a tackle bust in the build-up. It was 7-zip. To Glasgow, but then Simmons got a penalty for Exeter to make it 3 points to 7, and then a try from about 1 metre out, kind of a very Exeter try to Hill to put them in front, 10-7, and then I think it was about 32 minutes, Glasgow got a scrum penalty and they kicked it to make it 10-all, and then another one before half-time to make it 13-10. So Glasgow go into half-time with a slender lead, looking decent value, but second half Exeter find another gear and it starts to unravel for Glasgow. Slade very quickly on the second half gets one. Noel has the line break and he passes to Slade at 17-13, and then Sam Simmons gets a try from a line out maul. He bursts through, showing some really good power, 24-13. And then O'Flaherty gets a try, great chase from him from a kick through, and it is 31-13. So within 20 minutes of that second half, the game has totally shifted, and like I said, Exeter were just travelling at another speed. They did get a yellow card though, to I think it was it McLeod, for a shoulder charge, and then yeah, nothing really changed the game from there. Exeter kicked the penalty. It was 34-13. Sam Simmons got yellow carded for repeated infringements. And then Glasgow got a consolation try through Turner. 34-18 is how it finished. So, yeah, Exeter will be pleased with how that second half went. Glasgow not so much. But Exeter, I'm pleased that they are looking really good in the Champions Cup so far. They've picked up a full 10 points from their 2 games, so they are really flying high. I do hope that they can go on and replicate some of that Premiership form in recent years in the Champions Cups. Because last year I had kind of high hopes for them and it didn't pay off. But so far so good for Exeter. Interestingly, Glasgow had more possession, more territory, but didn't tackle all that well, 79%, which again is kind of Super Rugby levels, whereas Exeter were at 85. Exeter made 149 tackles to Glasgow's 88, but that speaks to Glasgow having more ball. Penalties were split 10 apiece. There was a beautiful sky in the background of this game. So sunset kind of thing, very nice. Noel had 5 defenders beaten and 2 clean breaks, top form from him. Seems fit and ready for action, unlike perhaps at the World Cup. Seymour, 7 defenders beaten, 85 run meters, 3 clean breaks in a losing effort for Exeter. So, yeah, like I said, Exeter 10 points, top of pool number 2. Good stuff. Glasgow are still second in pool 2 with 4 points, but remember, Sale and La Rochelle are still to play on Sunday, so we'll see what happens with that game. The next one, Lyon and Leinster. I've only seen the highlights. Not much in the way of tries compared to some of the previous games. Just the one to Deegan. But it was interesting because Lyon came out with the attitude of trying to kick a drop goal. They missed it on 3 minutes. And actually the score was opened through Johnny Sexton's boot with a penalty for a high tackle. So 3-zip. He hit the post with another one a bit later, but eventually it was Deegan on 22 minutes, got the only try of the game, and it all seemed to build up from a Josh van der Fleer charge down. So that guy, from what I've seen, seemed to be very busy, which is just good because he is a guy with a pretty good work rate. Lama got yellow carded on 26 minutes. Lyon were hot on attack. There was no halfback there to pick up the ball. The ball looked to be out, so Lama went in and grabbed it, but the ref said, nah, that wasn't out. So I guess cynical play, killing the play off. So yeah, he was yellow carded, but they their defense just held, man, and they didn't concede any points during that yellow card. So they went in having not conceded any points at half time. They did finally get their first points to Lyon on 66 minutes through a penalty after a line-out infringement, made it 10-3. Sexton on 75 minutes had a try chalked off by the TMO from some obstruction by Ringrose, so they went back for the penalty, made it 13-3, and then Leinster immediately give away a penalty from the restart, and they kick it, so it's 6 points to 13. Lyon did have an attack at the death, but they knocked it on, so yeah, that's kind of how it finished. Had to go blow my nose. Jeez, that's getting to me. Maybe it's hay fever. It's spring over here. But yeah, I guess for Lyon, there's a losing bonus point against Leinster is something you take all the way to the bank, even if you're at home. Interestingly, Lyon had a ton of possession and territory, but they couldn't get any run meters from it because Leinster's defence just was immense. They made fewer run meters than Leinster, even though Leinster had far less ball. 344 to Leinster, 223 to Lyon. Tackling percentage for Leinster was 91%, which is, again, getting into that really high level. 154 tackles they made. Lyon made 95 and tackled at 85%. Josh van der Fleer, I mentioned it before, he made 20 tackles out of 21, so top shift. Bruni for Lyon made 13 out of 14, so again, for him, very good effort. But yeah, man, solid away win in France for Leinster. They keep chugging along. They are top of their pool, are on 9 points, the same points as Northampton. And yeah, they do play Northampton next at home once we resume in December for the Champions Cup. So that will be a fascinating match. Lyon are 4th in the pool with just that solitary point, with Benetton having picked up 2 in their game. So yeah, high-flying in the top 14, but not so far translating into Champions Cup form. They travel to Benetton next, so that will be an interesting one to watch. The next game, Harlequins against Bath. No tries at all in this one, but boy, was it wet. It was just piddling down over there at the stoop. Yeah, man, it was wet. So kind of no surprises about that. My notes, given I was watching this game at the same time, are kind of few and far between, so I probably won't do it justice. But I mean, it was exchanging penalties, really. I will say that Harlequins' scrum was on top for most of the match, and that's probably largely why they were able to get ahead. They won a lot of scrum penalties. They had a lot of possession. I mean, in terms of scoring, Harlequins 3-0, scrum penalty, another penalty 6-0, another one 9-0. That's how it was at halftime. Smith was kicking it really well despite the weather. Halftime, Harlequins had 68% possession, 73% territory. They had 186 run meters to Bath's 81. They were tackling at 93%, but Bath were at 96%. So it was very much a game of defences and just taking whatever chances were given. 50 minutes, Quins got a penalty after a huge period of pressure, made it 12-0. Bath finally got on the board, 52, 12-3. And then another one later on, about 59 minutes, 12-6. Bath finally won the first scrum penalty of their game, their first scrum penalty on 69 minutes. At that point, it was 4 scrum penalties to Harlequins and 1 to Bath. And then eventually, Quins got one more penalty before full time to make it 15-6. Quins did get a yellow card towards the end of the game. I think it was a no-arms tackle. And then Watson looked a wee bit ginger for Bath. He'd going down a few times. He looked not quite 100%, so I hope he is all good. But 77 minutes, Bath kick a penalty to make it 15-9. That's how it finishes. So they do pick up another losing bonus point. It is going to be tough for them. I looked at the table from last year, and one team, it was Glasgow, managed to get through with 2 losses, but that's it. You pretty much got to win them all from here. So it doesn't get any easier for Bath. I guess at least they did pick up bonus points in both of their losses. But they've still got Clermont and Ulster in this pool, so it's not going to get any easier for either of these teams. In terms of the full-time stats, 58% possession for Quins, 59% territory again for Quins, so they bossed that area of the game, but the second half was probably a bit more evening out for Bath. Knock-ons were 9 apiece, kind of makes sense given the wet weather. Run meters 248 to 170. Quins had more ball, so again it makes sense. Tackling, both sides, 94%. That is phenomenal. 98 for Harlequins, 125 for Bath. Robshaw and Evans for Harlequins made 13 each. Yules, Stuke and Bayliss made 12 each for Bath. Did I say Robshaw and Evans for Harlequins? I hope so. But penalties conceded 11 by Bath, only 5 by Harlequins. So that is probably the defining area of the game. Interesting, Bath had that yellow jersey on. That one's a new one for me. But yeah, it looked alright. Good crowd, despite the weather. Honestly, you could be forgiven for not wanting to go to that game because it was just raining, man. Like, I know here, Super Rugby, when it's weather like that, a lot of people just watch on TV, but top crowd, given that weather. So, credit to those guys for getting... I didn't see any tries, but you saw a whole bunch of tackles and some good kicking. But yeah. Final one is Munster up against Racing 92. It's a draw, 21 points apiece. Could have easily had a draw in this game as well, but not to be. It was just this one. So yeah, kind of a fair result because both sides really brought it. There were some absolute moments of magic in this one too, to be honest. Munster had a 3-0 lead early. There were a few errors, some knock-ons, etc. I think it had been raining. Commentators, I think, said before kickoff, but I don't think it rained during the game. If it did, it was light because I couldn't see it on the camera. But yeah, Russell got the first try of the game. Bit of magic from him. They had advantage, so he put a magic little chip through and he managed to regather it, made it 7-3. Munster kick a penalty, make it 7-6. And then Toma gets a try out wide. Bear with me a second. That's better. The nose is still causing me all kinds of issues. But yeah, it's that time of year. So 6-7. Toma gets the try. Again, it's a half break from Zebo. Toma gets the chip and regather, and it's 14 points to 6. Hanrahan looks to have scored a try on 34 minutes, but the TMO says there was a knock-on in the scoring, so that was from a tap, so no try there. But then on 39 minutes or 40, Earls, who's kind of got no rights to score there, which is often how he does it, to be honest. On the left wing, there's no room. He beats Zebo, and yeah, they missed the conversion, but it is 14 points to 11. That's how it goes in a half-time. Munster, more possession, more territory, but the run meters are pretty even, because when Racing are getting the ball and they're cutting through, they are making some meters. Second half, 46 minutes, Hanrahan gets a penalty, 14 apiece. Russell gets a line break on 48 minutes, and he passes to Imhoff, so they strike back. 21 points to 14. Lockman goes off for Munster. He looks pretty hurt, which is disappointing for him. 53 minutes, Racing missed a penalty, which in the scheme of things is actually pretty important. And then, yeah, Conway on 75 minutes. Why is it always Earls and Conway, man? Those guys are just class. Out wide after a whole bunch of pressure, and they had advantage. And then Hanrahan with the conversion, like pressure conversion, man for the job. He slots it. And it's 21 apiece. But then again, as I say, man for the job, he does miss a drop goal. And they had it pretty well set up. They go 15 phases. It was on, and he just couldn't hit it. So disappointing for them there. But on the other side of things, they did manage to hold Racing out towards the end, because Racing ran a penalty after 80 minutes, and they didn't just kick it out. They went to attack, and yeah, they eventually knocked it on. So good pressure from the Munster D to hold out for the draw. Munster always seem to get a draw. Last year they had a draw, I think, against Exeter at Sandy Park. This time it's home against Racing. So very close games, man. Run meters 423 to 471, with Racing having a few more, but pretty close. Possession 64% Munster, territory 69% Munster. But like I said, when Racing did cut through, they did make a good job of it. Neither side's lineup was that flash. Munster 76%. O'Mahony made a few uncharacteristic errors in this one as well, but 83% from Racing in terms of their lineout. Penalties conceded, Racing 9, only 3 by Munster, so I guess that's one area they did manage to win. Tackling percentage both sides in the 80s, but Racing had to make 202 tackles. That's a hell of a shift. Munster just had to make 98, although they did have a lower percentage than Racing. Racing 87, Munster 81. Individuals, Teddy Toma 114 run meters, 6 clean breaks, and 6 defenders beaten. Excellent. And Haley for Munster, I think he got man of the match actually. 119 run meters and 8 defenders beaten. So again, absolute shift. Hell of a crowd too. So they were treated to some entertainment. They didn't quite get the win. That Hanrahan drop goal didn't quite make it, but still leaves Munster second in the pool on 7 points. They're ahead of Saracens. Speaking of Saracens, Munster will go away there next once we resume in December. And for Racing, they will host Ospreys. So they will be looking for a pretty solid win there. Racing are top of the pool, also on 7 points. So, yeah, those are the games. A fair few of them, some absolute magic, and some games with no tries or few. So, yeah, a wee bit of a mixed bag. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games, key moments, key players. How did you think they went? And, yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. Take it easy.